حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله أدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد بالله حق جهاده فما ترك لنا خيرا إلا ودلنا عليه وما ترك لنا شرا إلا ونهانا عنه. وصلاة وسلام أتمين على حبيبنا وشفيعنا وقرة أعيننا سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Dear brothers, inshallah, the khutbah today will be about a subject we don't address enough, about the effect of the small deeds or small hasanat, the hasanat that we don't pay attention to, those actions that we underestimate in a daily basis, the action about certain sunan that Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have told us about repeatedly in different ways, in different occasions, in different hadith. And we'll start with an example of a daily life example, just to kind of get to that khutbah in a practical basis. Let's talk about a Muslim who wakes up in the morning. A given Muslim lives here, wakes up in the morning, and the moment he opens his eye, he makes the dua al-istiqad, alhamdulillah, ahyana ba'di al-amata wa ilayhi an-nushur. So he makes the dua, knowing in his heart this is from the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad, instead of looking to his cell phone. He makes that dua, it will take him just a few seconds, and then he goes to the bathroom. So the moment he goes there, he goes with his left foot as the sunnah. He might not think about it, but he's doing it according to the sunnah. He's making dua. He leaves with his right foot, saying ghufranak. Then he feels a little bit thirsty. He wants to drink water. Nobody's watching him. Just doing it. He was raised that way, doing it according to the sunnah. He sit down, take 3 sips of water, bismillah before that, and then leaving to the masjid, doing salat al-fajr. He will do the sunnah of tayammun, wearing his shoes, starting with the right, leaving, making dua. Dua that you also usually say when you leave your house. That action that were done probably took him about 10 minutes. But you can see, you can count how many sunnahs he ended up doing. So even without thinking about it, 7, 8, 9. What is the ajr that inshallah he's going to get by implementing and doing those sunnah? And this is what the ulama said, this is what we call them as-sunan mustasghara. Mustasghara in Arabic means that they are underestimated, or under-evaluated, or they're neglected. Or some Muslims do not even think about them as something worth doing, or that something will not change the course of your life. Like if you are a sinner, you would say, well, you know, those things probably will not make an effect when I go and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You always have back in your mind that you have to do something major to be able to go to Jannah, or to be in the higher ranks of Jannah. And this is, as I said, the actions that are sunnah, whether it have to do with your clothing, the way you wear your clothes according to the sunnah, the way you eat, the way you drink, the way you practice in day-to-day rituals. And those deeds, subhanAllah, is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that are meant to be done easily, without any extra effort, but they were meant to pile up and to have a good effect on you, on your iman, on your faith, and on your day-to-day living as a Muslim. And subhanAllah, the same way that Sayyidina Muhammad have mentioned about the muhaqqirat al-dhunub, that there is also, in the other way, there is also sins they don't pay attention to, that you implement as a human being in a day-to-day, they can have an effect of, by piling up day by day, have a major effect on you. And Sayyidina Muhammad mentioned that those sins are like wooden sticks that can pile up and can eventually create a great fire, can affect your iman. So the same thing, there is muhaqqirat al-dhunub. There's also those mustasghirat al-ta'at, those also easy to do, easy to implement sunnah that are meant to build up, meant to improve your iman, and meant to also push away the sins that you're doing on a daily basis. And this is the whole idea, the battle that we deal with as Muslims. We're doing sayyat every day, whether we mean it or not, unfortunately. This is the nature of the humans. We have deficiencies. But those hasanat, those deeds, the easy deeds, are meant to push those sins away, are meant to wash and counteract those sins away. And subhanAllah, one of the important things that sometimes, or the fallacies that we think about, the misconceptions that we talk about, that we hear people saying that Islam is core, is a lub, and is an outer layer. There's a qishr and lub in Arabic. There's a core and outer layers come to ta'at. So they mean by that you only have to focus on the core and leave the outer layers because they're not as important. It's a big misconception. Of course, in Islam, there's ta'at and there's priorities that we have to implement. Of course, you cannot say that saying Bismillah before food is as same important as praying your 5 prayers. I'm not saying that. But as a Muslim, our goal is to implement as much as we can. Whether it's a wajib, or fard, or sunnah. It's a ta'ah at the end of the day. The more you can do, the better you are. You cannot do all the sunnah, obviously, but the more you do, the more you are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's no way in your mind, as a Muslim, that you should underestimate any ta'ah, any good deed. Never. Because this is the ways of shaitan. Whether you do it yourself, or whether you see another Muslim doing this ta'ah, the sunnah. No matter how simple the sunnah is. So this is something that we really have to pay attention to. And I'll give an example. You have a bank account, and this bank account, every day you're taking $1 out of it, and you're not adding anything to it. No matter how much money you have, this bank account will eventually have nothing there to add on. There's nothing there to use. So this same thing, your life is always you're taking that money, that deeds out of your way by doing those sins, unfortunately. So you have to put money back. You have to put those deeds back. One of the easiest ways is to do those day-to-day ta'at. And Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam have a wonderful hadith about that. The hadith that a lot of you knows in hadith in Sahih Bukhari Muslim. Sayyidina Muhammad asked the Sahaba, this is one of the ways that he used to teach the Sahaba. He would ask a question and expect the answer of a Sahaba. And we see if they don't know the answer, he will elaborate further. So he said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, من المفلس? Who is the one who's bankrupt? Or who is the one who doesn't have anything? And the Sahaba said, this will be our answer also. The muflis is the one that من لا درهم له ولا دينار ولا متاع, have no money and no goods. Of course, this is the definition of somebody who have nothing or bankrupt. And Sayyidina Muhammad wanted to change that mindset, that concept. إن المفلس من يأتي يوم القيامة. إن المفلس من أمتي. The muflis from my ummah, from the nation. This is the hadith is addressing us. The muflis from our ummah is the one who comes yawm al-qiyamah with the salah, with the siyam, with the zakah. وقد شتم هذا, he cursed that person. وخطف هذا, وأكل مال هذا, ate the money of this guy. And وسفك دم هذا, and he killed that guy. And وضرب هذا, and he hit that guy. So he's implementing all those sins every day. فإن يوم القيامة, so those people will take their hasanat. فيعطى من حسناته. So Allah will take the hasanat from him to those people that he harmed them on a daily basis. Until he have no hasanat left. So if there's no hasanat left, what will happen? He will take the sins of the other people that he harmed them. قبل أن يقضى ما عليه أخذ من خطاياهم فطرحت عليه ثم طرح في النار. So when there's no more good deeds to be taken away from him, he will start to take the sins of the other he harmed until he have nothing left, until he go to the nar, to the hellfire. So that concept of the bankrupt person, how can we address that? We all unfortunately do some of that. Unfortunately. How can we push that back? Again, to make ta'at. And those ta'at will push those sins away. And one of the effective ways, again, I'm sorry, repeating that because it's an important concept, is to make those day-to-day sunnah are easy to implement. And these will be one of the most effective ways for us to be shifted away from the nar. So, I would say that, one of the, and this is why as a Muslim you have to be a good investor. You have to know how to invest in your ta'at. You try to choose the easy ones, because those things you don't need any effort, and then every once in a while, you go with the ones that need a lot of extra effort, like paying a lot of your money to sadaqah, or like doing tahajjud, doing qiyam, or helping a brother. Those things, and we know that we cannot implement every day, but there is ta'at that we should easily be able to do in day-to-day living. And subhanAllah, there is a lot of benefits, brothers and sisters, from implementing those day-to-day ta'at. Because when you do them, when we do them, we're doing it not for the sake of the action itself. We're doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Sayyidina Muhammad have asked us to do so. This is important. Because some people, unfortunately, whether it's from us as Muslims or people who are influenced by secular ideas, they will mock those people. Say, like, look at the way he's trying to wear some clothes according to the Sunnah. Or he is, using the miswak, or he's walking specific ways according to Sunnah. This is not going to change the world. People are starving, and there's hunger, there's a lot of issues. How can those day-to-day Sunnahs change the world? And this is subhanAllah the shaitan. This brother, if you're doing it with the intention, with the niyyah of worshipping Allah, is as important as doing anything else, because he's doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Sayyidina Muhammad have told him to do so. So sometimes some arrogant people among our community, they start to mock those people. And they call them different names. He's a strict guy. Well, he's not strict if he's implementing Sunnah. You'll be strict if you're doing something that Sayyidina Muhammad did not ask you to do so. But if you're adhering by the Sunnah, this person is doing the right thing, and you just do better yourself. You have deficiencies, just work better. But you should not mock whatsoever, ridicule the ones who are adhering to even small actions, because those things were done by Sayyidina Muhammad or done by the Sahaba. If they're trying to adhere to the Sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is why Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in the important hadith, وَلَا تُحَقِّرَنَّ مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ شَيْئًا. Do not underestimate and ridicule anything that is good. This is a sin by itself, that you ridicule any good, any hasana. وَلَا تُحَقِّرَنَّ مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ شَيْئًا وَلَوْ أَن تُفْرِغَ لِلْمُسْتَسْقِي مِنْ دَلْوِكَ فِي إِنَاءٍ. Sayyidina Muhammad saying an example, the same hadith, that even if just taking water from your pocket to your brother pocket, just putting water from your bottle to the other brother bottle is a hasana by itself, that is important. And he continues, أو أن تكلم أخاك بوجهك مبسط. Or even you talk to your brother with a smiley face. This by itself, Sayyidina Muhammad is an order. وَلَا تُحَقِّرَنَّ مِنَ الْمَعْرُوفِ شَيْئًا. Do not underestimate and do not ridicule, do not mock anything that is considered good. Everything counts. In finances, every penny counts. The same thing in your hasanat. Every hasana counts. And this is a way of being adherent to the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. One of the other benefits of implementing those day-to-day sunnah is that, in Arabic I will say, and then inshallah translate to English, أَنَّكَ تَسْتَحْضِرُ مَعِيَّةَ اللَّهِ. That when you are doing those actions, you're feeling the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're feeling that Allah is watching you. You're feeling Allah guidance, Allah protection. Wallahi, nobody is watching you the way you eat, the way you drink. Nobody's watching you. How do you enter the masjid? What are the du'as that you're doing? What are the things that you do? But nobody is watching you. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. So when you do it with the intention and doing it for the sake of Allah, and adhering to the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad, subhanallah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was listening to the lecture, related to the same subject, and there was a beautiful Egyptian scholar, and he was saying that, subhanallah, even the way you make dhikr, when you do subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, after each salah 33 times, and then la ilaha illallah, when you do the 33, not 35 or 36, because you're adhering to the sunnah, that's by itself is an act of sunnah. Because you are just adhering to the sunnah itself, not less, not more. So this brother who's doing it, this sister, they're doing it on a daily basis, knowing that nobody's watching them, but deep inside their iman is growing and growing because they are feeling the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another benefit, brothers, and this is important, because nowadays we live, as we all know, in a time of trials or tribulations, in a ghurba, that deen and implementing deen is becoming harder and harder, even among Muslims. Certain brothers, we're not going to say examples, like who are really adherent to the sunnah, they'll be mocked by the community themselves. itself, unfortunately. And we know examples about that every day, on a daily basis. So implementing deen is becoming harder and harder. And people who implement deen right will be accused different ways, among their brothers and sisters, unfortunately. So there is more ajr, there is more thawab, there is more rewards of implementing those day-to-day sunnah, and nowadays than back in the days, like back in the time of Sahaba. We live in a healthy community, a society where everyone is promoting for deeds, everyone is promoting for a healthy Muslim society. It's easy to implement those hasanat, or those ta'at, those day-to-day sunnah. But nowadays when you implement them, it's harder because you can be mocked once in a while. And you're going to be looked at in different ways. So the ajr of doing a ta'at in the time of hardship is much bigger. And this is from the blessing, and this is from the fairness and adl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Al-ibadatu fil hajj bi hijratin ilayh. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the time of trials and tribulations, in the time where it's hard to implement Islam, ka hijratin ilayh. The rewards of that is as equivalent to the reward of doing hijrah to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And of course, some ulama said the meaning of hijrah today as if you're leaving everything behind and moving and escaping and going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Sayyidina Muhammad as a metaphor. So look at this beautiful ajr. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر. Let's talk about the last benefits of implementing the sunnah. Is that a lot of times we as sinners, we have sometimes from the shaitan, there was some doubt that Allah will accept anything from us. Especially if we reach to a time where we made a major sin. We will have doubts, and those who put wasa'was that where shaitan is trying to say, well, no matter what you do, Allah will not forgive you. Or you have to do something big and major, hasanat, for Allah to forgive you. But when you have those day-to-day ta'at, knowing that are from the sunnah, knowing that there are going to be rewards behind them, then knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will count them, because Allah is merciful and Allah is fair. As we said, do not underestimate any good deed. Then the feeling of hope will come back to your heart, because knowing that I can still do inshallah good deeds, day-to-day deeds, and inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will forgive me. And I will be under Allah's blessing Azza wa Jal. So that gives that hopelessness feeling away from your heart. And this is where going, and it's subhanAllah, going to another hadith of Sayyidina Muhammad. In hadith al-Bukhari, and Ibn Mas'ud said, الجنة أقرب إلى أحدكم من شراك نعله والنار مثل ذلك. That Jannah is closer to you, than your shoelaces. It's a metaphor. That Jannah is close to you. It's not, I know you have to work hard, don't get me wrong, but there's certain things if you're smart enough to do, to invest in your deen, the path of Jannah is clear to you. Allah is merciful. Allah did not make the path of Jannah impossible to do. Because He gave us the path. Give us the kitab and sunnah. So Jannah is closer to you than you ever think. Same thing as Nar also. This was in the hadith. You have to finish the whole hadith. That Nar is also close to us, and Jannah is close to us. The balance in Quran and in hadith and about always fearing Allah, khawf min Allah, and raja, hope of the mercy of Allah. We always, our mashayikh and ulama always teach us the way to know Allah, the way to get close to Allah is through love, al-hub, and al-raja wal-khawf, and hope for the mercy of Allah and the fear of Allah's punishment. There's always that balance in the hadith in the Quran. So Jannah is close to you. You just have to know how to invest. And this is where, inshallah, we'll conclude is that, as our kids and grandkids, yes, they're not going to make hajj at a small age. They're not going to do zakah. You might say, well, now they're still too young yet, maybe to have all the salawats done in a specific time where they're supposed to be. But there's things that you can do even before that, to teach them the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad. And do not ridicule certain sunnahs, and do not categorize them. Anything is important, brothers. Anything that's considered sunnah is important. And what the Sahaba taught the generation that, especially subhanAllah, there's the example of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. He's even used to walk the way that Sayyidina Muhammad used to walk. And he was famous because he was very strict in the way of him being adherent to the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad. So we teach our kids day to day how Muhammad used to eat, how he used to walk, how he used to address people. His also sunnah al-qawiyya, how the adhkar of Sayyidina Muhammad. And we teach that everything that is done and said by Sayyidina Muhammad is as important as it could be. And I give an example. For example, in Salah, you know that in Salah there is fara'id, the things that if you don't do in Salah, your Salah not accepted. And there is things as wajibat. Sheikh Abdul Hamid, of course, knows better than me. Wajibat that you have to do also, but if you don't do, you have to sujood sahwa and repeat it. We're not going to go into details. But there's also sunnah. Sunnah. And people unfortunately might say, well, oh, sunnah, that means I don't have to do it because my Salah will be accepted regardless. It is true, but from fiqh standpoint. But as a Muslim, you want to pray the way that Sayyidina Muhammad prayed. So, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So when you, for example, read a book about you and your kids about Kafiyat Salatul Nabi, how Sayyidina Muhammad used to pray. There's different people who wrote that books. One of them famous, Sheikh al-Albani. You are teaching your kid to be adherent to the Sunnah. Even the way Sayyidina Muhammad used to sit in between two sajdas. And when your kid learns that Sunnah is important in all aspects, then he will get used to implement those day-to-day hasanah. Those day-to-day, simple, easy to practice deeds. And those deeds, as I said, are a path to go to Jannah, are a path to erase the sins, are a path to stay connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are a path to increase your iman, واستحضار نية معية الله, استحضار معية الله, feeling the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قولوا قولي والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إني داعي فأمين ربي أعني وانصرني ولا تنصر علي وانكلي ولا تنكر علي واهدني ويسر الهدى إلي. اللهم انصرنا على ما بغى علينا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اجعلنا لك شكارين ذكارين. اللهم يا كريم بعلمك الغيب وقدرتك على الخلق أحينا ما عمت الحياة خيرا لنا وأمتنا ما عمت الوفاة خيرا لنا. اللهم نسألك الخشية في الغيب والشهادة ونسألك كلمة الحق في الرضا والغضب ونسألك القصد في الغنى والفقر ونسألك الرضا بعد القضاء وبرد العيش بعد الموت. اللهم نسألك لذة النظر إلى وجهك والشوق إلى لقائك في غير ضراء مضراء ولا فتنة مضلة. اللهم زيننا بزينة الإيمان واجعلنا هداة مهديين. اللهم يا كريم انصر وارحم واغفر وأعن إخواننا المكلومين في المغرب وفي ليبيا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يا كريم ارحم موتاهم وأطعم جوعاهم وارحمهم جميعا يا أرحم الراحمين وأعن على نصرتهم بالقول والعمل يا كريم يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم صل على إخواننا المستضعفين في كشمير وإخواننا الإيغور وإخواننا التركمان وإخواننا المستضعفين في اليمن وفي فلسطين وفي بلاد الشام وفي كل بقعة يرفع فيها كلمة لا إله إلا الله. قولوا قولي هذا والحمد لله وأقيموا الصلاة.